Hello, welcome to my channel. This is the penultimate video. It's going to be the Lover's card. And I nearly chose, or probably from the very start of this project, I knew which song I was going to choose for the Lover's card. And it was the song that probably prompted me to think that it would be an interesting marriage between Kate Bush songs and the Taro, that it would work because I thought this song choice added a new depth to the Tarot card. It was seemed interesting perspective to me. So because of that, I always thought, and because it's, I've got a particular fondness for this Tarot card and for this song, I thought I was going to do this as the last card. But as I said in my previous video, the world just seemed, because the world is about endings, it just seemed the perfect card choice for the very end. And I envisage that last video that I make, it's going to be me talking about the project as a whole. I'm going to flip through all the cards. I'm going to show you the pack that I got printed as well, so you can compare and see that. Probably won't be talking that much about the world card, because I think I've got more interesting things to say about the Lover's card. And I've got some really interesting decks to show you, including one that you probably haven't seen, because I don't think there is a flip through of that on YouTube anywhere. And I will link where you can buy that deck if you're interested in exploring it further. And I've got a great Lover's card with a really lovely guidebook entry, which is quite short, but I will read that too. So quite a lot to get through. What I was going to say, so I've got the Pointner Tarot here, which is a lovely colourful deck. It's quite linked to, it's a Marseille deck in a way. It departs from complete, as you can see, it's not traditional Marseille. But I think I was attracted to it because it was so colourful, and it was a time when I was trying to think, I'd like to read or have a Marseille deck, which I haven't really. So this is the closest that I've got to a proper Marseille deck. And with this, so what I was going to say is that it shows a particular version or interpretation of the Lover's card in that it's about choice. So it's not, I think when we see the Rider-Waite version and stuff, or I suppose the title, The Lovers, that there is a temptation to think, well, it's about love and romance and relationships and attraction. But certainly there are other tarot cards, especially the Wands cards or the Cups cards, that could be about that too. And I think, when we get to the major arcana, it's usually, there's layers to these major arcana cards, and it's usually about something deeper than that. So the idea behind the Marseille approach, I think, to the Lover's card is it's about a choice, and there is a certain like a morality to that choice. So here he is. So I'm laughing because of the I don't know whether you can see that. Maybe I'll just. But the two women portrayed here in this love heart are his the two women he's got to choose from. And as you can see, the one in blue, who looks a bit of a Virgin Mary type, kind of the way she's dressed and stuff, and rather pious. And then they've got there's a lot of humour in this deck, I should say. I think this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But then you've got the lady in red who looks, she looks like she's dancing. She looks actually quite a lot of fun, doesn't she? But there's, I think, the sense that you've got the moral choice between choosing something that is wholesome and good for you and something that maybe is a little bit tempting and leads you into the sort of devil territory. So that is the traditional, traditional interpretation of the Lover's card. And I was just going to quickly show you I won't show you all the cards from this deck, but I will link it so you can know where you can get it. So it's called the Diana Tarot, and I particularly love the Lover's card from this. I was a child of the 80s, and Princess Diana was such a feature of my childhood. I've got an early photo of me at the royal wedding celebration at my school when I was like 5 or 6. And, all growing up, she was this figure. So here we have Princess Diana is the angel, so I suppose it's a little bit more like a Rider-Waite version of this card. And we have the choice. So the choice is Prince Charles, of course, and the choice is between choosing Princess Diana or Camilla. So, I mean, it's a great... So I'll just quickly show you. I won't show you all the deck. I'll just quickly show you some. So there's a lot of humour in this deck as well. But it also manages to be a tribute, I would say, to Princess Diana. It is a really good deck. So there's that choice. But I think... So that is certainly, when it comes up for me, that is one of the things I will consider. But for me, there's a deeper meaning to this card too. And I think this is particularly well shown. I think this is one of my favourite Lovers cards ever. And this is from the Next World Tarot. And so this is I've got the mini version of this deck, so it is quite small. But perhaps I'll just read the guidebook. But I particularly love the fact that here she's got these spoons. And for me, as someone that's autistic and really struggles with energy, and I do struggle with the fact that I have less energy than other people, and I get frustrated and feel restricted, and I do, I think I'm getting better at building in like recovery time and realising that I need that space and that time on my own. But it is still quite hard when, so much I think in society is built around being busy and being useful to people, and all those sort of all that baggage that comes and which actually is quite ableist, but I don't think we recognise it fully yet. Anyway, this deck is great. I think it often has a really, I do recommend this deck. It often has a really interesting perspective on cards. It doesn't go for the obvious. So what it says about the Lovers here. The Lovers are the electricity between contrasted energies that give one another life. The Lovers are the choices between methods of survival and the discovery of a pristine middle ground. The Lovers are a sacred point where power merges from the spine. The Lovers are the feeling of warmth and belonging, the meeting where you felt heard and the gathering where you felt alive. The Lovers are two halves of a whole, intuitively joined at the hip and made for one another. They intersect at moments of calm resilience and moments of pain and dysphoria, and they offer the wisest connection, the connection that truly reciprocates, the one that truly holds to you. Now I suppose this is why I wanted to read this, because they say it can be a person, a place, your own mind and body. The Lovers ask you to trust this. The Lovers remind us that love does not exist as one narrative where our connections are limited to people and places outside ourselves. Love is constant in a full heart or an aching spine. It's the decaying leaves of trees in autumn that remind us that struggle and change can exhibit our most colourful talents. As the universe offers pipe dreams, delusions and wayward paths, the Lovers ask you to embrace an indestructible bond that honours you for you. I mean, what an amazing guidebook. What an amazing entry. And I think that more and more, I think that is what, to me anyway, the Lovers is about, is, and maybe this is also a reflection of now in being in my 50s and, seeing that, and having been in a long relationship, and how in that relationship I think when it's certainly when it's working at its best, you grow together and you bring out the best in each other, and you learn, you get to know yourself and sides of yourself through that other person. But there doesn't have to be another person. It can be about how you connect to anything or relate to anything to get to know who you are. And if you think about a lot of how we relate to things is projection anyway, that certainly we might be infatuated with someone because they represent something that we want to express in ourselves. So it's not necessarily, we talk about shadow, but shadow doesn't have to be just the dark thing. Sometimes they are our strengths and our positive side of us that we haven't learnt to express yet. And I think often the Lover's card can be maybe, and this was probably certainly me in my teens and 20s, of idealizing someone because I hadn't yet seen how those qualities were within myself. And just the last other Lovers before I show you the Kate Bush song was the Ithel Colquhoun one. And I think I show this deck quite a lot, but I absolutely love this deck. I think it's amazing. I love the Golden Dawn title of The Children of the Voice, the Oracles of the Mighty Gods, because it's so powerful. And there is that sense, I think, of once we embrace all parts of ourselves that we have, and we're not wasting our energy on repressing and suppressing parts of ourselves we don't like, that once we are able to fully love ourselves, the amount of energy that is released, which sort of brings back to what I was saying about the spoons, I suppose, in that, as I said, like as someone who's autistic, my energy is more limited, or my energy gets drained more by socializing, or just by my environment, or like a long journey or something, or being in a busy place. So that's definitely something that happens, and it's my nervous system, and I have to respect it with the spoons. But there is also a sense that my spoons sometimes, my energy sometimes gets drained by not acknowledging who I am, by masking, by trying to be someone I'm not. So there is also, and I suppose now, as I recognise more and more about how my neurodiversity functions, that I start to realise how that inauthenticity is also something that drains me. And that once we step into authenticity, we have this beautiful power, this beautiful energy. I was also thinking about how when we make a choice, we release energy as well. That being in that moment of indecision, it can, keeping our options open can feel nice, especially I think to any air sign, and I'm a Gemini sun and moon, so I recognise this in myself. Keep your options open, but as soon as you decide sometimes and make a decision one way, you release a lot of energy into that. And that is an acknowledgement that to choose one thing is to choose against another thing. And sometimes we don't want to do that. We want to keep our options open. But there's this power in this card. So what song? You might have guessed already, because it's, one of her most famous songs, and I haven't chosen it yet. So, from Hounds of Love. And it is Running Up That Hill, and this is her from the video, with beautiful, beautiful dancing. Now, I often like to read what Kate Bush says herself about the songs. This is from katebushencyclopedia.com, which I, recommend again and again. It's brilliant source information. And this is what she said in an interview with Tony Myatt in 1985. It is very much about the power of love and the strength that is created between two people when they're very much in love. But the strength can also be threatening, violent, dangerous, as well as gentle, soothing, loving. And it's saying if these two people could swap places, if the man could become the woman and the woman the man, that perhaps they could understand the feelings of that other person in a truer way, understanding them from that gender's point of view, and that perhaps there are very subtle differences between the sexes that can cause problems in relationships, especially when people really do care about each other. Right, so I don't fully agree with that, and I'll explain that in a minute. I chose the lyric, "There is thunder in our hearts," because again, I wanted that sense of power and energy from the Lovers card, that movement as soon as you make a choice. Now, what was I going to say? Yes, the thing about where she says, I mean, she said this in the 80s, and I think our views about gender are different now. I hope, or some of our views are, or for some people they are. But anyway, my view would be different. I think there is male, this is my personal feeling, that there is male and female energies in all of us, that a lot of gender is a social construct, and that we are able to see something of ourselves in other people, whatever gender they are, and that I guess I have but I wouldn't necessarily think of the Lovers as necessarily getting inside someone else's mind or swapping places. That's not how I see things. I would think more that we are, we're multitudes, aren't we? We have every single behavior and impulse and stuff in us, and that often maybe if someone is triggering us or we don't understand them, it is about connecting with some shadow side of ourselves and getting to know that. I'm not saying excusing people's bad behavior or saying that we would all make the same moral choices as someone else. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that humans have fundamentally the same impulses. And some of us have worked and processed with those, and some of us haven't. And, and also some of us have had tough lives and haven't really been able to. But then it all goes into moral judgment. I don't really want to get into that. But I think it is that idea of the merging of energies of the two people, if you like. That's what attracted me to that Running Up That Hill for the song. The idea of how through admiring and loving someone else, we start to admire and love something else in ourselves. So that is my penultimate card. And I look forward to seeing you in the very last video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.